evening. Welcome to this intelligence brief.
Good evening.
You are joining us for a comprehensive, measured examination of the rapidly shifting events in the Middle East.
With a specific focus on the nation of Iran.
Indeed. In an era often dominated by sensationalism, our objective today is to provide you with a clear, objective assessment of the facts.
The varying international perspectives.
And the potential courses of action currently unfolding on the global stage.
But before we begin our analysis, we must establish the origin of this report.
Of course.
This deep dive is sponsored by ProWave AI.
And generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
For the official record of today's intelligence brief, the title is
Post-strike Iran, power vacuum, IRGC control, or diplomatic reset.
The region of focus is the Middle East, specifically Iran.
And today's date is the 2nd of March, 2026.
Now, to give you a clear understanding of the technology bringing you this report, the Stylo News app you are listening to is the consumer version of the Stylo Intel Ops software.
Right. Stylo Intel Ops being an enterprise tool.
Exactly. It is specifically designed to support global decision makers in government, the military, and the business sector.
Which means that you, the listener, have unique, unprecedented access.
The exact same level of intelligence briefing tools currently being utilized by global leaders to navigate these incredibly complex events.
Our mission for this deep dive is strictly analytical.
We intend to impartially analyze the primary patterns of events in Iran over the past 2 weeks.
And to accomplish this, we are synthesizing recent intelligence estimates, reports from international news outlets, and aggregated social media sentiment.
Let us turn to the diplomatic breakdown.
Mid to late February 2026.
To understand the gravity of the current crisis, we must look at what happened in Geneva.
Indirect nuclear negotiations between the United States and Iran were taking place,
with the nation of Oman acting as a vital mediator.
However, these talks reached a definitive and unyielding impasse.
Help us understand the parameters of that deadlock. What exactly was on the table?
Well, the positions of both nations were starkly defined.
And fundamentally incompatible.
The United States approached the table with an absolute demand.
Total nuclear dismantlement.
And a policy of zero uranium enrichment by Iran.
From the American perspective, this was the only acceptable outcome to guarantee regional security.
In contrast, Iranian negotiators firmly maintained their sovereign right to a peaceful nuclear program.
They frequently cited a religious decree, or fatwa,
issued by their supreme leader,
which explicitly forbids the development, stockpiling, or use of weapons of mass destruction.
For Iran, conceding to zero enrichment was viewed not just as a diplomatic surrender,
but a violation of their national sovereignty.
So an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force.
Precisely. And following this diplomatic failure, United States President Donald Trump issued a strict 10 to 15-day ultimatum,
demanding that Iran comply with American terms.
What immediately followed was a military mobilization by the United States and Israel that can only be described as unprecedented in recent history.
The scale of the deployment over those 2 weeks was staggering,
signaling a clear shift from diplomatic pressure to imminent military readiness.
2 United States aircraft carrier strike groups,
the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln.
They were swiftly deployed to the eastern Mediterranean and Israeli waters.
To provide context, a single carrier strike group projects immense firepower.
2, accompanied by over 120 warships, represents a formidable armada,
capable of blanketing an entire region in advanced radar coverage and offensive capabilities.
And it was not just naval assets.
No. We saw the deployment of advanced F-22 stealth fighters to Israel.
Aircraft specifically designed to bypass sophisticated air defense systems.
Furthermore, intelligence reports indicated that 119 military refueling tankers were positioned at maximum capacity in neighboring Jordan.
Let us pause on that figure.
It is significant.
What does the deployment of nearly 120 refueling tankers signal to military strategists?
That is perhaps the most telling indicator of what was being planned.
Fighter jets like the F-22 burn through fuel at an incredible rate during combat maneuvers.
You cannot sustain a widespread, continuous bombing campaign over long distances without a massive airborne refueling bridge.
So 119 tankers operating at capacity out of Jordan?
Was not a mere show of force.
It was the establishment of the logistical backbone required for a sustained high-intensity air war.
Iran, naturally observing this massive mobilization on its borders, established its own pre-strike posture.
Looking at their countermeasures objectively, they did not back down.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, initiated large-scale naval drills in the Persian Gulf.
And during these exercises, they successfully tested the Syad 3G long-range surface-to-air missile.
The testing of the Syad 3G was a clear demonstration of advanced air defense readiness,
Concurrently, Iran executed a temporary closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
a critical maritime choke point.
This was a calculated flex of geopolitical muscle.
In response to these domestic actions and military posturing, the European Union took a significant diplomatic step, formally designating the IRGC as a terrorist organization.
And imposing severe financial sanctions aimed at crippling their operational funding.
This escalating tension brings us to the pivotal events of February 28th and March 1st, 2026.
Within a matter of hours, the conflict transitioned rapidly
From proxy engagements and diplomatic posturing,
to direct state-on-state warfare,
coordinated military operations by the United States and Israel,
officially designated as Operation Epic Fury.
they commenced.
The factual scale of Operation Epic Fury was massive and highly coordinated.
Intelligence reports confirmed that nearly 900 separate attacks were executed.
Within a highly condensed 12-hour window,
The precision strikes systematically targeted Iranian military infrastructure.
key nuclear sites, including the heavily fortified underground facilities at Natanz and Fordo,
As well as vital Iranian cyber assets.
attempting to blind their communication and retaliation capabilities.
Executing 900 sorties and missile strikes in half a day requires a level of coordination that is almost difficult to comprehend.
But it was during this relentless bombardment that the most consequential turning point of the operation occurred.
Intelligence and international news outlets quickly confirmed the death of Iran's supreme leader.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
He, along with several family members and top security officials, was killed when strikes targeted his residence in the capital city, Tehran.
The loss of a supreme leader in a strike of this magnitude is a generational event.
It is indeed a paradigm-shifting development.
In maintaining strict neutrality, it is necessary to present how the involved global powers are articulating their positions on this event.
The United States government justified the targeted strike as an essential defensive measure
Required to permanently dismantle imminent nuclear threats.
and to cripple the command structure of Iranian regional proxies, which they view as a destabilizing force.
Conversely, the governments of Iran, Russia, and China issued immediate, strong condemnations.
They uniformly described the act as a brazen violation of international law
An assassination of a head of state.
and a direct illegal assault on sovereign territory.
The ripple effects of this event, locally, nationally, and internationally, have been profound and immediate.
Let us start on a national level within Iran.
The sudden death of the supreme leader, who holds ultimate political and religious authority, created an immediate power vacuum at the very top of the Iranian state.
How is the regime attempting to hold itself together?
To maintain regime continuity and prevent a total internal collapse, a three-person temporary leadership council was swiftly formed.
This council comprises the Iranian president and high-ranking judiciary officials.
They immediately declared 40 days of national mourning.
However, they are attempting to govern a nation that is deeply fractured.
Widespread anti-regime protests, which were already occurring prior to the strikes due to economic grievances and social restriction,
Have continued and in some areas intensified,
This presents a severe internal challenge to the surviving state apparatus.
forcing them to look inward at the very moment they are under external attack.
Looking at the local and regional impact, the military response from Iran was swift, despite the internal chaos.
The IRGC launched retaliatory missile and drone attacks.
Directed at Israeli territory and United States military bases situated throughout the Middle East.
Furthermore, the IRGC briefly reinstated a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
We must unpack the significance of this waterway.
Approximately 20% of the world's daily oil supply passes through this narrow channel.
While the blockade was temporary and the strait was subsequently reopened, the action was highly significant.
What is the practical reality of even a temporary closure for the listener? We hear that 20% statistic often, but the economic shockwaves must be immediate.
Absolutely. When that strait is threatened, maritime insurance premiums for commercial vessels skyrocket instantly.
If ships are forced into massive detours around the African continent, supply chains are severely disrupted,
The immediate result is a spike in the cost of energy.
which cascades into severe inflation for consumer goods globally.
The IRGC likely reopened the strait to avoid totally alienating Iran's few remaining international economic partners.
Recognizing that a sustained closure would unite the entire global community against them, out of sheer economic necessity.
That economic anxiety brings us directly to the international stage.
The security environment has deteriorated so rapidly that several nations have initiated emergency protocols
The United Kingdom, India, and China have all issued urgent advisories.
and begun the complex process of evacuating their diplomatic staff and private citizens from Iran and the surrounding region.
Alongside these diplomatic maneuvers, we must analyze the public reaction.
And social media sentiment surrounding these events, which reveals a deeply divided global populace.
Following the announcement of Operation Epic Fury, massive anti-war protests erupted in major cities globally.
Including significant organized gatherings in New York, London, Karachi, and Baghdad.
In reporting on these demonstrations, our intelligence briefings highlight an interesting layer of complexity regarding how some of these protests materialized.
Security analysts reported that the protests within the United States were mobilized mere minutes before the official announcement of the strikes.
That is correct. Intelligence estimates suggest this remarkably rapid mobilization was coordinated by a network of nonprofit organizations.
According to these reports, these organizations allegedly received funding from Chinese tycoon Neville Roy Singham.
We present this fact objectively, noting that the speed of the protests suggests a high degree of pre-existing organizational infrastructure.
Ready to activate at a moment's notice.
It is also essential to contrast that anti-war mobilization with other prevailing public sentiments to get a full picture of the global mood.
Aggregated data reveals a strong, highly visible countercurrent of hawkish sentiment across various social media platforms,
Many users, commentators, and political figures are expressing firm support for the strikes.
viewing them as a harsh but necessary intervention for long-term global security and stability.
As we survey this volatile landscape, it is vital to understand the perspectives of the key decision-makers.
And the courses of action they are presently navigating.
In Washington, the United States is maintaining a strategy of maximum pressure,
American military forces remain at a high state of readiness.
explicitly positioned to initiate further, punishing strikes should Iran choose to escalate its retaliatory measures.
However, domestically, the situation is complex.
The United States Congress is expected to convene shortly to debate the formal authorization of military force.
This indicates potential internal political friction regarding the scope, duration, and legality of a prolonged conflict.
Meanwhile, in Tehran, the Temporary Leadership Council and the IRGC are engaged in an incredibly delicate balancing act.
They have publicly promised severe and decisive retaliation to avenge the death of Ayatollah Khamenei.
Yet they must weigh these promises against the acute need for self-preservation.
They're trying to maintain internal stability and prevent the total collapse of the regime.
Amidst fierce domestic opposition and severely crippled military infrastructure.
And caught in the middle is the broader international community.
Entities like the United Nations, the European Union, and mediating nations like Oman are desperately pushing for an immediate de-escalation.
They are actively advocating for renewed diplomatic efforts.
Recognizing that the window to prevent a wider, uncontrollable regional war is closing rapidly,
There are currently proposals for emergency talks to be held in Vienna.
as well as urgent, binding interventions being drafted within the United Nations Security Council.
Based on this comprehensive intelligence estimate, there are several key developments you, the listener, should watch for in the coming days as this situation evolves.
First, monitor the convening of the Assembly of Experts in Iran.
This is the 88-member clerical body tasked with the monumental duty of selecting a new supreme leader.
Historically, their deliberations are highly opaque and unhurried.
Now they must navigate this monumental decision under the immediate threat of war.
Amidst severe domestic unrest, and with the Temporary Leadership Council currently holding the reins.
The factional infighting behind closed doors will likely be intense.
And their ultimate choice will dictate Iran's strategic direction for a generation.
Second, you must closely observe the status of commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Watch the energy markets.
Any prolonged disruption, harassment of vessels, or further blockades in this corridor will have immediate cascading effects on global oil prices.
And international inflation rates.
Third, and perhaps most unpredictably, watch the actions of Iranian-aligned proxy groups.
We are specifically looking at organizations like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen.
During this chaotic period of leadership transition in Tehran, It remains to be seen how these heavily armed groups will behave.
Without the centralized command they have relied upon for decades.
Will they coordinate their actions with the Temporary Leadership Council?
Or will this unprecedented power vacuum prompt them to act independently, creating new and unforeseen flashpoints across the Middle East?
These are the primary patterns, facts, and geopolitical realities defining this historic crisis.
Okay, let's unpack this end scene. Phew. We can finally drop the 1960s news anchor voices now. That was intense, but honestly, what a fascinating way to look at the facts.
It is a profound relief to speak normally again. I felt like I needed a black and white filter on my microphone.
Right. But taking a step back and adopting that Walter Cronkite, just the facts persona, really helps cut through all the modern media frenzy.
Yeah, the emotional spin we see online today is just overwhelming. Laying it all out chronologically without the usual shouting matches makes the sheer scale of what happened over those 2 weeks much clearer.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sticking with us and listening to this deep dive, by the way.
Definitely. And, looking at all those sources, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a really provocative question to mull over.
Ooh, hit me with it. What stands out to you?
Well, it goes back to that third point we just mentioned about the proxy groups.
Right, Hezbollah, the Houthis.
Yeah. With the ultimate central authority figure of Iran's incredibly complex proxy network suddenly removed from the board, what actually happens next?
That's a huge unknown.
Will groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis fall in line behind a temporary political council in Tehran?
Or without commonized unifying religious authority.
Exactly. And the centralized financial distribution network he oversaw, will they begin to operate as independent, unpredictable actors?
Setting their own aggressive agendas in the Middle East.
Right.
That is exactly the kind of aha question that makes diving into this stuff so rewarding. A heavily armed, independent proxy group acting without a state sponsor to rein them in is a terrifying prospect for regional stability.
Absolutely.
If you want to keep exploring questions like that and staying ahead of the curve, you absolutely have to check out the sponsor of today's deep dive. As we mentioned at the top, this was generated by Stylo News.
And just to clarify, while we talked about the enterprise software earlier, Stylo News is a mobile and computer app that you, the individual listener, can download right now.
Yeah.
It is incredibly powerful.
It really is. It takes all the noise out there and lets you customize your very own personal intelligence-style briefs. It pulls data from hundreds of traditional news sources, plus real-time sentiment and updates from X, formerly Twitter.
And synthesizes it just for you.
Yeah.
Minus the bias and the fluff.
Right. It essentially gives you the analytical power and synthesis capabilities of a professional intelligence agency right in your pocket.
Exactly. We highly urge you to subscribe to Stylo News if you want AI-powered news on demand, where you can actually understand the why behind the headlines.
Visit www.stylonews.com.
We truly appreciate you taking the time to learn with us today. It is a complex world, and navigating it together is what this show is all about.
We really do. Please reach out and request topics for future deep dives. We love seeing what you want to learn about next.
Yeah, let us know.
And don't forget to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms. Until next time, stay curious.